Well, hello everyone. Oh, there's Alex. I was like, where did Alex go? Or is it you, Brendan? Who's with me today?
I guess it'll be me until Alex can get back on. He must have gotten disconnected. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's show. My name is Brendan Blake. I'm the Associate State Director of Advocacy. And in the most smooth way possible, I'm going to hand this back to Alex.
Thank you, Brendan. We apologize for that technical difficulty. As you can tell, we are still doing virtual events here. So welcome, everyone. I am Alex Juarez. I'm the Communications Director for AARP Arizona. As you can tell, we've had different hosts for the show, along with Coach Sherry Ann. We've had Dana Kennedy, our State Director. We have Brendan Blake and Brenda Holt as well, and myself, Alex Juarez. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation and over 900,000 in Arizona, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. In the month of September, we are focused on Thrive in the job market, where we will showcase AARP's relevance as a wise friend and a fierce defender, helping workers find a job while fighting on the job on behalf against ageism. We will provide tips, advice, and resources to help you stay competitive in the job market and mitigate the impact that the coronavirus pandemic has had on employment and income. Navigating today's ever-changing job market can be tough, but we're here to help you through it. Go to aarp.org/work for tips, tools, and resources on how to stay competitive in the job market. You can also visit aarp.org/AZ. So again, Coach Sherry Ann, welcome and good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Alex. I'm doing great. Thank you.
That's wonderful. So what fun adventures did you do this weekend? How'd you stay active this weekend?
Well, I'm moving. And so I was busy packing. And so, because I moved this week. So I'm staying here in the Valley, but I'm just moving home. So it was quite an undertaking. And plus my youngest is back to playing baseball. So we were at a baseball field for 4 hours in the heat, which reminded me greatly how important staying hydrated is.
For those of you that don't live here in Arizona, this weekend I think the temperatures were close to 109, I think. So we're still in the dead of summer. I mean, it's towards the end, and September should start cooling off, but it hasn't happened just yet. We're waiting for it desperately.
So stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. That's right. So once again, if you can please tell us where you're watching us, where you're following us. Coach Sharan always has an interest to see where people are watching us from. So today, what are we're going to be talking about healthy eating on a budget.
Yeah.
And I know that can be challenging. Obviously, we know that fast food, can be a cheap way to do it, but that's not a healthy option. So let's talk about some tips that we can offer up to our members and our viewers. How we can stay in budget and still have a healthy diet.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I hear about is it's so expensive to eat healthy. And in some ways it can be, but one of the things I say to people though, right out of the gate is you're going to pay for your health one way or another. You're going to. So why not pay for it on the front side with eating healthy and doing the things that you can do to live a life full of vitality rather than paying for it on the backside with healthcare costs. So make the investment now so you can have a fulfilled life because you're going to pay for your health. You just are. Right. So look at it from a positive outlook and be like, you know what? I want to have a fulfilled life. And so let's just put our money in to our nutrition because we need to fuel our bodies properly so that we can avoid diseases. And so it is possible to eat healthy on a budget because I do it because I'm a single mom of 3 kids. And so I make it work. And it's just really about, and it's not convenient. It really isn't. It does take time and it does take effort. So I'm going to tell you that right out of the gate. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy because it does take time and effort, but it's manageable. And so it really comes down to, is it important to you to be on a budget? And for me, it is because we like to do a lot of fun things. And so I budget my meal planning. And so a lot of it is just plan your meals. if one of the biggest things is if you're just flying by the seat of your pants, and that's how we end up doing takeout or now Uber Eats, or DoorDash or things like that. And so it's really important to plan because you'll be able to save so much more money if you just sit down and put a plan together. And one of the things I like to do, because now that we have these nice little devices that we can carry around, is I use apps. Like most stores have an app. And in those apps are loaded their sales and their coupons. And so it's really important to take advantage of those. Like I have my staple stores I go to. So Sprouts now has their own app. And I learned about it like about a month ago. She goes, "So do you have the app?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Well, you can save $10 today." And I'm like, "Give me a minute." Like I'll download it. And so that made me, and because before that I was just using my Fry's app.
Yeah.
And sometimes I check Trader Joe's because I go to Trader Joe's for like little boutique things,
Sure.
and Costco. So use the phone apps to really be able to watch sales, and those stores also load coupons on their apps. And so, and then you can they make it very user friendly once you have it in there. So utilize that to your benefit. And so it's been super helpful for me to use an app. And alongside, that, another great thing is to create a shopping list. And
Uh-huh.
I also use my phone for my shopping list. And that's because then it's always with me. Because sometimes if I make a paper list in the past, I've left it at home and I'm at the store going, "Oh, what do I need?" And years ago, I discovered Microsoft has a to-do list.
Right.
And I can sync it with my children because they have phones also. So if they need something, because in the past it used to be like, "Mom, I need blah, blah, blah." I'm like, add it to the list. And so now that we all have the to-do list on our phones, they can go and add it to that, and it syncs automatically with the main list.
So I've got a question for you. I mean, I did a little research before the show about healthy options and healthy tips and all that, and I think the writing a shopping list is extremely critical. It's very important to do that. Some of the other tips that they offered up there were waste nothing, eat leftovers for lunch, buy frozen. That one caught my attention because I had thought that eating fresh vegetables or non-frozen stuff would probably be better. Try cheaper brands, eat more vegetables, cook with pulses, freeze leftover bread. Those are all tips that I saw there. Can we just
Oh
concentrate on a
yeah,
couple of these?
I have. Let's see. I have 11 different tips to share, and you
Wow,
mentioned a
great.
lot of those, and so that's wonderful that you went and did some looking. So it's really very manageable as far as produce goes, because
Right.
you said so when it comes to produce, I strongly recommend shopping seasonally and
Okay.
and try and buy locally. So Sprouts supports local growers, and so that's
Hmm.
why I get a lot of my produce at Sprouts because I want to support local. And learning how to eat seasonally is really kind of fun, and it gets you out of your comfort zone because then you're probably eating things that you don't normally eat. Because if you're not eating seasonally, you're eating something that's been picked before it's ripe and it has to be shipped here, which is costly. And so
Exactly.
if you're not eating seasonally, you're going to be paying more for your produce. And then as far as frozen, yes, frozen is actually a really good alternative. It's not my favorite.
Hmm.
But when it comes to organic berries, because I like organic berries, because
Right.
berries, if you're eating the skin, I try to go organic just because I
Okay.
don't want stuff sprayed on it. And
Hmm.
berries are, you're eating the skin.
Yeah,
So I
exactly. Right.
tend to buy frozen berries because,
Hmm.
I do love fresh berries, but berries can be very expensive. But when you're buying a frozen fruit or frozen vegetable, it's being picked at its peak. So it's the most nutrient dense, and then it's being flash frozen. So it's sealing in all of those nutrients. Whereas when something is being picked and then shipped, it's losing its nutrient density. And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of validity to eating frozen fruits and vegetables.
Okay. Good to know that. Yeah. So now organic. You talked about organic. Obviously, we know that organic is probably better for us, but cost-wise, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. What are the benefits, and
So,
is
like
it
I
worth it?
mentioned, if you're eating the skin, I would try to go organic as much as possible,
Yeah.
only because then you're avoiding the pesticides.
Hmm.
but the argument is, but organic is being given different water and the soil and all of these things. It's not just the pesticides that are being sprayed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of argument to that, but it comes down to budget. Like, what are you able to
Sure.
manage? And
Exactly.
so like organic
Mhm.
bananas, like I don't feel a need to do an organic banana because I'm not eating the peel.
Right. Exactly.
Or oranges for that matter. And so it
Mhm.
just really comes down to, your budget. But if you're eating the skin, try and make it work to where you can do organic. And if you can't do organic all the time, just do it every now and again. And you'll notice that when you do have organic, it does taste different. Like when it comes to apples, like apples that are not organic, my kids can tell the skin is thicker. It has this waxy coating, it's been treated and it just doesn't taste as well. And so they just don't taste the same. So there's
Okay.
some things that I will budget in as far as organic goes, and I budget it in.
Excellent. Before we continue, let's do a quick check-in and see who's checked in with us. And just a reminder, if you're watching us from outside of Arizona, please make sure you tell us, where you're watching us from. Leave us a comment, or if you have a question for Coach Sharon, she'll be happy to answer that during the show. Or if not possible, then she'll go back into after the show and answer those questions. Kathy, we have a usual viewer, Kathy, and so she says hello, Coach, and all. Dana Marie Kennedy is watching, and hi, Coach Sherry Ann and Alex. Great to see everyone. Kathy, she says, hi, Kathy from Mitchell, Nebraska. I am a snowbird, who spends winters south of Green Valley, Arizona. Well, that's wonderful. Great to have you on the show. Glad to have you, Kathy. Linda, hi from Greensboro, North Carolina. Thank you for your tips for healthy living. Excellent. And then we have Sophie. I'm watching from ASU. I'm writing a story about healthy eating on a budget. Thank you for the resources. That's great to have that. Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. And again, if you have a question for Coach Ariane, please make sure you put it on our comment sections and also let us know where you're watching from. Go ahead, Coach Ariane.
So back to produce really quick because I want to go on to meat. But produce, if you have the ability, try to grow your own. Like you'll notice that when you grow your own fruit and vegetables, they taste remarkable. And it's fun. It gives you an activity to do. And it's
Right.
really because you can be outside. And it's challenging here in Arizona because of the heat, but there are things that you can grow very, very easy here. And so it's just a matter of doing a little bit of research on produce, and there's lots of resources out there. So if you can, grow your own. So meat tends to be the most expensive thing on the grocery list. And so there's a lot of things that you can do. And one of them is buy in bulk. So if you buy your meat in bulk and you can freeze it. So like if I'm buying ground beef, I'll buy it in bulk and then I will section it off and put it in Ziploc bags. And you have to make sure that when you're freezing it to get all the air out of the bag. They do have those fancy vacuum seals that you can get, which are great, and if you have the money to buy one of those, I just put it in Ziploc bags, press all the air out of it. And then I date them. I take a Sharpie and write on the Ziploc. Although it's not really ever necessary because I never get to the freezer and be like, oh, how old is this? Because we
you go through it pretty fast.
Yeah. But I buy it in bulk and I separate it out and I put it in the freezer. And there's nothing wrong in doing that. Like it actually saves you quite a bit of money. And to buy cheaper cuts of meat, you can buy cheaper cuts of meat and just get really creative with how to prepare it. And that's one of the fun things about being on a budget is it allows you the opportunity, if you're willing, to just dive in and get creative with meal planning, meal preparation, and really how to make it work. And I turned it into a game. Because there was a period in my life where it was stressful. Like I'm clipping coupons before they had phones, and I was making a paper list and really like diving into it to just cut pennies where I could. And it was not fun, but now I turned it into a game and it's kind of fun. But so buy cheaper cuts of meat. And it's an easier way to go when it comes to meat. And then you can also do like once to twice a week, do a meatless meal. And if you're doing a meatless meal, have some fun with that as well. I mean, make sure that you're getting some grains and beans in there to get a full protein profile, amino acid profile, to make sure that you're getting your proteins in. But it's totally manageable to do meatless dishes. And grains and beans and lentils and peas and things like that are actually very, very inexpensive. and you
Okay.
can buy them in bulk really
Sure.
easily, and they store forever. They're not perishable. So those are things that I have. Those are kind of staples that I have on hand all the time.
All the time, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and so it's kind of
So
a go-to.
Dana has a point about farmer markets, and we'll touch on the market buying. She said, I love farmer markets, and they then I freeze what may go bad.
Mhm.
Sharon says, "Hi guys, Sharon from what is it? So I need my glasses here. Saratoga Springs, New York. Hi from Central New York, Carol. Bonnie is joining from San Jose, California. Susan says hi from Salt Lake City. Diane says hi from Frankenmuth, Michigan. Well, that's wonderful. Renee is watching from Delaware. Let's see, who else do we have here? We have Kathy just put a comment there, just eating my Florida homegrown pineapple while watching through 3 pineapple tops in my dirt, and I was surprised to get 3. Good
That's
job, very good. I said, how long does meat last in the freezer? Good question there. We'll come back to that question in a second. And then also Carol had a comment there. In areas where we have winter 5 months of the year, we can't buy local fresh vegetables and fruit. I still buy fresh that's been shipped from somewhere. Is that better than buying frozen?
Mm.
Good, good points there.
Carol, that's a
So
great question. Should I
yeah,
answer that question really quick? I'll just answer
sure. Let's
because
we'll get to all these.
it's not one's better than the other, because when you're buying stuff that's being shipped in, you're getting fresh fruit, or vegetables, and it just comes down to cost also. So because frozen, like I said, is picked at its peak, so it's actually very nutrient dense and very good.
Right.
A lot of it just comes down to what you're wanting to consume. Like, I'm not a big fan of frozen vegetables because I don't like them. They tend to be mushy, and I don't like mushy vegetables. I like the crunch. And so it just comes down to personal preference. But in that situation, buying stuff that's being shipped in versus frozen, it really comes down to just what you would prefer.
Excellent. So going back to the topic that Dana mentioned, farmers market. How good are they?
Oh, they're fantastic. I love them because they're all local people. And I'm always about, like I said earlier, like, because of Sprouts, like, I like to support local. There's not very many farmers markets during the summertime. They kind of take a little bit of a hiatus,
Okay.
but they're wonderful. And at the farmers markets, you're going to pay for a little higher premium sometimes, only because this is their livelihood, but it's one of those things where, am I willing to pay a higher premium for a better product because
Sure.
it's been grown and picked just like last week, and
Mhm.
harvested. And same with, there's a farmer's market that I go to off of Cactus in the 51, and there's a guy there that brings in, because I make my own bone broth, so I can get my bones from him, and he's a local farmer. And so and I pay a little bit more for his bones than I go like at the market, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I'd like to support him, and I'm getting a better product. So I love farmers markets. I really do, because their stuff is incredibly fresh, but just be prepared that you might be paying a little more than you would be at the store.
Are most of the fruits and vegetables in the farmers market organic? Do we know that?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. Because I shouldn't say that, because they could be spraying as well, but typically typically they're better. They taste better. They're healthier for you. They're more nutrient dense. But that's a question that you could ask each
Right.
person that you're
Each
going
person,
to
right?
buy from. Yeah.
Okay. Back to the question of Renee. How long does meat last in the freezer?
Great question. I don't have an exact answer for that one, but I do know that if you leave air in the bag, it tends to spoil faster, even though it's in the freezer. It'll get freezer burn on it. And so it can last a long time. It also depends on your freezer. Like, if it's a commercial grade deep freezer, it lasts way longer because it just stays cold. Whereas freezers that are attached to refrigerators, they have these cycles that they go through, so that they don't totally freeze on the inside. So a lot of it depends on your freezer, and how well it's packaged. So there's not an exact answer for that one.
Okay, fantastic. So Susan has an interesting question here. What would you recommend for a vegetarian to make sure that I get enough protein in my diet?
Oh gosh, there's no short answer for that one. A lot of it is making sure that you've done your research to make sure that you understand amino acid profiles. So when you mix a grain and a lentil is a bean or a pea, then you're getting a full amino acid profile. And so you want to look at things that give you everything. Your like eggs are great. I don't know if so. You're not vegans don't do eggs. Vegetarians do. And then there's pescatarians, that will do fish but won't
Hmm.
do meat or chicken. So there's a lot of different kinds of vegetarians, and I did hand quotes because it's. But the biggest thing is just do some research to make sure that you're getting a full amino acid profile. And
Okay,
but it's standard that grains and beans together are great.
wonderful. And then she's got a follow-up question there about legumes. Or whole grain pasta be cooked and frozen? Can they be frozen and
Yes.
cooked, or cooked and frozen afterwards?
Yep. And it's totally fine to do that. Like sometimes, so I'll do a rice and lentil dish and I put in a lot of different vegetables. So one of the tips to eating on a budget is cooking in bulk. So things like that, I do cook in bulk because then it's easy to reheat it because I can freeze it, section it off and freeze it. And reheat it to go with whatever meat we're going to be cooking for the evening. Or if I just want it to be a meatless dinner, then I can do that. So
Mhm.
those things are really easy to cook ahead of time and cook in bulk and then reheat and do leftovers. Like leftovers are big in my house. Like in fact, there's some nights where we get to the week and I open the fridge and I'm like, I am not making dinner tonight, and I just pull everything
Yeah.
out and it's just like a smorgasbord. I'm like, have whatever you want. Um, and it's kind of nice because that's a great way to save money on, a budget, eating healthy on a budget. So I do cook bigger meals on purpose. And things
Right.
like meat, like going back to meat, like I will cook a big thing of ground beef and season it, and then it can be used for lots of different things. It can be put into tacos. It can be put onto a salad. It can be mixed in with all kinds of things.
Okay.
Um, and so meat is one thing, ground beef is one thing that I will cook in bulk and just have it in the fridge because I have 15 and 13-year-old boys that are consuming more than I can even keep up with right now.
That's wonderful. That's
I mean,
great.
my son came in at 10 o'clock at night. He's like, how do I reheat a steak? I'm like,
Yeah,
it's 10 o'clock at night. He's like, I'm starving. I'm like, put it in
hungry
the
again. Huh?
oven.
That's great. Coach Arian, can we go back to the tips? You mentioned a few of the tips, but we didn't go through the entire list.
Yes. So one of them I just gave you was prepare in large quantities. That's a
Right.
really good way to save money. And it just saves time. It saves time as well. Because that's the other thing is I find that the biggest complaints with eating healthy is it's expensive and the time. It takes time, and it does take time. But when you cook in bulk, you can save time and money. So that's a winner. And like I had mentioned earlier, grains and dry goods, like buy them in bulk and store them in your pantry. And that way you can keep them on hand for whenever you need and cook those in bulk just as well. Let's see, avoid highly processed foods.
Oh
So
yeah. Hmm.
shop when you go shopping, and this is the other reason why I want you to take a list, because if you don't take a list, you get distracted
Hmm.
and things end up in your cart that weren't on your list and cost you money.
Impulse shopping.
Yes, it's like, and don't go to the store hungry. Like go fed. So because if you're hungry, you have a tendency to impulse buy as well.
Yeah.
But shop your perimeter. Get your meats, fruits, veggies, grains,
Mhm.
everything that you need, your dairy, all on the perimeter. And then go to the center of the aisles for the things that you need and be very diligent, because processed foods are packaged really pretty. And if you don't know how to read the labels, you could be buying processed foods that are very expensive and actually not good for you. High in sugar, high in sodium, things like that. So really be careful with processed foods. Be very diligent and purposeful when you're buying processed foods.
Excellent. Very good.
So, and plus processed foods tend to be more expensive per unit kind of thing. And so just be careful. And it's so funny. People don't think of this, but cheese that is already shredded is considered processed
Oh
because
wow. Okay.
it's been shredded and it's done for you.
Mhm.
And so that's more expensive per unit than if you were just buy a
Sure.
block of cheese and shred it yourself.
Makes sense.
So you pay for convenience.
Sure.
So try to work at thinking not being convenient. I know we want convenience, but it's going to save you money if you buy things that are less convenient.
That's right.
The other thing is shop generic. You don't have to buy name brand. The name brand stores are becoming very, very competitive and very, very comparable. So if you're shopping at Fry's, do Kroger, and what is it, Fresh Select at Safeway and Albertsons. So to look at and then even at Kirkland at Costco. So look at name brand generic products. Look at generic products over name brand, because you're going to be saving a lot of money and getting just as good of a product.
Okay.
So that's another big one that people tend to not pay attention to. But yeah, name brand is not all it's cracked up to be. You're paying for a label.
That's true. Exactly. So let's go back to another question that Renee had here. What is your number one tip for cooking for just yourself? So
when you're cooking for a single, it is challenging because you want to be creative and you don't want to, overcook. And, if you're by yourself, is leftovers really that great? So my number one tip is just, there are a lot of meal preps out there for singles, and you just have to go looking for them, and they're actually fun. And you can make things, like I said, like if you're even cooking ground beef ahead of time, and for a single, if you're cooking a whole pound of ground beef, you can use it in a lot of different ways, putting it in a casserole, putting it in a frittata, mixing it in with eggs, just different things that you can do, putting it on a salad. So it's just a matter of still being able to cook in bulk, but having a variety of things to mix it into. And so there's a lot of things out there that will help you when you're cooking for a single. But yeah, I would say that's, and they've made it more and more convenient now at the store, because they have those ready-made meals for singles, because nobody really wants to cook by yourself. But just get engaged with cooking, like have fun with it. And that's the thing, is like there's cooking therapy out there, and cooking is actually really, really good for you, because it awakens all 5 senses when you're cooking. And so just find the perspective of just having fun with it.
Absolutely. So I think we have time for one more question. Susan has a question here. Are there staples that you always try to keep stocked in your pantry? I think you've talked a little bit about them.
Yes. One of them is grains, whole grains. And we do brown rice, couscous, things like that, sometimes bulgur. But so having grains and beans. If you choose to do the canned route, like canned veggies, canned beans, I didn't touch on that. Be careful of the sodium. Canned foods tend to be really high in sodium, which is okay here in Arizona a little bit, because if you're outside and you're sweating, you need the sodium, but it tends to be very, very high. So if you have hypertension, high blood pressure, that's things that you really need to watch out for. So I do have some canned goods here in a pinch, because they're very, very cheap. What are other things that I have here? Like granola, because granola is actually high in sugar, but my teenagers love it. So things like that. Pasta, I have pasta always on hand. So things that aren't perishable, I always have on hand that I can easily throw into a meal to make it a little beefier.
Okay. Fantastic. Excellent. Well, we're almost out of time. Next show will be on the 28th, September 28th. And what do we have to look forward to?
I'm actually really looking forward to this one. It's how to mentally prepare for retirement. There is so many people that think about it for a long time before they actually take that step. But there's not a whole lot of support out there on how to, just prepare for it. Because it's a looming thing. It's like, when you retire, what do you do? So I'm really excited about covering how to mentally prepare for retirement.
That is wonderful. Looking forward to that show again. Any last tips or comments on healthy tips, staying in a budget?
I'm going to say it, like I opened it with it, and I'm going to close with it. But that is, you're going to pay for your health sooner or later. So pay for it on the front side. Eat healthy, have fun with it. I mean, you're nourishing your body, this vessel that's supporting you, throughout your whole life. So have fun with it, and don't be afraid to try new things.
That is wonderful, Coach Sherry Ann. Again, thank you so much. And to those of you viewing us from anywhere in the nation, across the nation, and Arizona as well. Thank you so much for joining again. You're joining Back to Basics with Coach Sherry Ann. This is your host, Alex Juarez, and we look forward to seeing you again on September 28th, same time, 10 a.m. Arizona time, and that would be 1 o'clock Eastern time. Okay, so again, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week.